What's going on live? It's your boy Billy Rowe. Today is Wednesday, so you know what that means. It's time for your Wednesday word. That's Wednesday word. Jumping straight into it. Today's topic is get back up and win the fight. So I always like to explain what I mean by the topic that I set. So what I mean by get back up and win the fight is that sometimes in life we get knocked down. And while we're on the ground knocked down, we spend time sulking in that knockdown, and we actually waste time beating ourselves up while we're down. So when I say get back up, I'm basically speaking about those times in life when we get knocked down. How important it is for us to get back to our feet, and then win the fight. It's not just about getting back up, but it's about going for success. So with this topic, I kind of want to give you four key bullet points on what this topic means to me, the areas that I kind of reflected on for myself in regards to getting back up and winning the fight, and then I want to share a brief story with you. So simple, straight to the point. Step number one, you have to know where you're at. Sometimes in life, uh, two things can happen. Well, more than two things, but two things in this situation can happen. Sometimes we get knocked down and we pop back up as an automated response. However, our brain and our equilibrium is not ready for us to be on our feet. And so we may end up falling even harder the second time because we popped up without being ready. Or number two, we get knocked down and we don't even know we're down. So that pop up and you're back on your feet, you know you went down and you're back up, but sometimes you're down on the ground and you don't even know you're down there. You think you're living your best life. You think that everything is going great, and it's unfortunate because you're down and you're not aware of it. You're not even aware that you need to fight to get back to your feet, or you need to work to get back to your feet. So one of the things that kind of jumped out about this is knowing where you're at is like being in the woods and finding your bearings. If you know that civilization is north, the first thing that you need to identify is what is north, where is north. It's great that you know civilization is there. It's great that you know that there is help or refuge to the north. But if you don't know north, south, east from west, you can be walking in the wrong direction trying to get to civilization, putting yourself further at risk and putting yourself further away from your objective, which at this point in this scenario would be safety. The other thing is uh, you have to know that you're on the ground so that you're not wasting time beating yourself up. For me, one of the challenges that I have when I make a mistake, I don't really have so much of a problem of owning my mistakes or owning my failures, but sometimes I overly criticize myself and beat myself up. I remember when I used to be in church, I would do things. I would try to live a righteous life and try to live my life for God, and I would make mistakes. Why? Because I was a child, because I was a teenager, because I hadn't had enough life experience, and still am working to have enough life experience to make the right decision every single time. So I would make a wrong decision no matter what it was. And then I would spend, instead of just saying, you know what, I made a mistake, let me get back on the right track, I would spend time brutalizing myself in that mistake. And so at some point I'd look up and I'd be like, I don't even know where I'm at. I've wandered off so far and beating me up. The place that I initially fell, or the trouble that I initially had, I don't even know where I'm at now, and I'm lost. Um, so it's important to know where you're at, to find your bearings, and to know what condition you're in. If I fall in the woods from 200 feet, I may survive that, but if I break my leg, I'm not walking out on that broken leg. I have to stabilize that leg before I can get up and move forward. So the first bullet I want to give you again is knowing where you are at, knowing whether you're standing or if you're on your bottom. The second thing is you have to adopt. I'm sorry, you have to make sure you don't adopt a defeated mindset. So it's one thing to say, hey, I did my best. I put everything into what I was working on, and it didn't work out, and accept that particular defeat. But what you can't do, or what I recommend you don't do, is accept that defeat as your lifestyle. As well, everything that I try doesn't work, so there's no point in me trying. Every time I get up extra early to work out, I don't work out, so I'm just going to cancel my gym membership. No, you might find that certain things or certain rhythms or patterns don't work for you, and you have to make the adjustment. Don't simply accept that mental defeat. It's almost like being that kid who initially is learning to tie their shoes, and because it's hard, we get frustrated and we throw our laces down and we say, we can't do it, I can't do it. With that frustration, if we stay in that mode, then we are accepting defeat, and then we have to wear Velcro shoes or slip-ons for the rest of our lives. Now, for me as a teenager, that didn't matter very much because I wore a lot of slippers. But as an adult, I do wear shoes with shoelaces, just so you know. The third thing is that after everything's said and done, once you know where you're at, once you know you're on the ground, you've been hit, once you've decided not to adopt that defeated mindset, you have to be able to get back to your feet. And part of that is, again, finding out those bearings and getting to know where you're at. But it's not about how fast you get up, it's what you get up with. So if you get up and you're back up on your feet and you go to attack the issue or the challenge in the same exact manner, that manner has already proven to you that it doesn't work in its current state. Now, there might be some tweaks and adaptations you can make to it that will allow it to be successful. But the way you tried it the first time that got you knocked on your butt is a clear indication that that doesn't work in that time, in that manner. So some things need to be tweaked. So instead of just getting back up, get back up with the lesson, get back up with the knowledge of what you have learned. You know, if I'm an opponent in a fight, we'll use UFC. I like the UFC. If I'm an opponent in a UFC fight and I go to fight somebody and they're better at a striking game, meaning they can box better than me, then I'm not going to get, after I get knocked down because I told myself, well, I'm going to beat them at their own game. After I get knocked down, once I get back up, I need to realize, you know what? Maybe being in a striking standing up match with them is not as good of an idea as I thought it was. Like, there's one thing my pride says, yeah, I beat you at what you're good at, but there's another thing that says I beat you. So you got to decide what's more important to you. Is winning more important to you, or is beating somebody at something that they're better at more important than you, are important to you? I will tell you for myself, I can recognize when I am focused on egotistical success, that means I am better than the person that I am competing against success, versus the success that comes when I am focused on being the best me that I can be. So you have to be willing to get up to your feet. One of the things that I was fortunately exposed to was in Krav Maga. In Krav Maga, which is a martial, I don't want to call it a martial arts, it's a self-defense fighting style. They start you from a lot of positions of disadvantage so that you're starting off as the underdog. And one of the most valuable things I heard today was fight for every success as if you were the underdog. Man, like, you're going at it. You at best, you are expected to lose by a little bit. But if you can succeed beyond that because you're fighting with every ounce of your well-being or of your being, then you get that win. You gave it everything that you had. So fighting like you're an underdog, even if you're in a disadvantaged position, allows you to get to your feet, be ready and established for the next success that's going to come. But again, if you don't bring the lessons that you learned from getting knocked down with you, more than likely you will be revisited to that same scenario where you are knocked back down on your butt, unless you get into this position called luck, which is really just a bunch of hard work stacked on top of hard work. So good luck with that. And then lastly is, once you're to your feet, in going back to UFC, once I get to, let's say, my feet, or I'm at an advantage now, I don't just get back up and stand there and say, well, I took that hit, I fell down and I got back up, I win, right? No, you don't win. What you have to be willing to do is throw the next punch. You have to be willing to say, okay, I was down there. Maybe I spent like 2 or 3 seconds down there. If I'm in a boxing match, 2 or 3 seconds down there to, get my thoughts together. I didn't spend a whole lot of time beating myself up. Here's what I learned. He has a mean right hook. He has a mean left jab. Watch out for the jab, and it sets you up for the hook. You bring those lessons with you, and then you're able to counter those punches and counter those obstacles that are being thrown at you when you're back on your feet. So don't waste all the time to get back to your feet just to stand there and be a target, to stand there and be impotent, to stand there and not take action to achieve the success. Success does not come simply because you get back up. It comes because you get back up and you move forward. The other thing is again, just making sure that you're constantly aware that you might get back up and get knocked back down again, but make sure you're continually revamping your approach. Hey, Tabitha, what is up? Yes, we must recalibrate. I'm so happy you're in. I hope you're feeling better, my friend. So those are the 4 key points that I want to share with you today. I want to share a brief story with you today because I kind of went through this stage in my life, fortunately and unfortunately, early in life. I wasn't prepared mentally for it, so it was unfortunate, but fortunately, I went through it, and I'm not going through it this particular moment in time. But when I was married for the first time, I went through a divorce. And in that divorce, I ended up getting depressed. And what I would do is I would wake up, go to work, come home, sit on the edge of the couch, wait until the sun went down, eventually get exhausted, fall over on the couch, go to sleep. I don't even remember eating. I don't remember anything. I remember I went down to about 165 pounds, maybe 160 pounds. But I was depressed, but I was in a rhythm. And the rhythm that I was in was me being on the ground. I didn't even realize that I had been knocked down emotionally and placed on the ground. And so every day, this behavior of wash, rinse, repeat of go to work, come home, sit on the edge of the couch, fall asleep, wake up, no alarm or anything, that was an unhealthy pattern for me. And physically, my body suffered. I lost extreme amount of weight. You would have thought I was on some kind of substance. I was not, but you would have thought I was. I excluded myself and distanced myself from a lot of my friends. And it took some friends that were really solid in my tribe to really reach out to me and continue to reach out to me and pull me out of that. Because I don't think on my own that I could have done that. That's another key that I didn't mention, but is about having a tribe that has your back and knows through observation when they need to be in your corner to throw that towel in to save you, or when they need to encourage you and tell you, hey, get back up. It's time to fight. The fight's not over. You got more in you. You need to have strong people in your tribe like that. But so this stage of divorce, what ended up happening is I eventually lost my job. I just had no drive to go to work. I just was going out of habit. And eventually when that habit wore off, I just didn't go to work. And so I got let go. They fired me, which makes sense because you don't go to work, you get fired. But I remember being on welfare. And I remember when I was on welfare at that point, I thought that was the end. I thought not only had I been knocked down, I thought I had been knocked out or knocked unconscious. And that couldn't have been further from the truth. What really was taking place was, as I had been knocked down and I was so dazed and so busy beating myself up for the poor decisions that I had made, that I didn't even take time to look at what getting up looked like. And so eventually I decided to go to school. I enrolled in community college, took a couple college classes. And I remember going to one of my welfare appointments. And the lady had told me, she's like, don't worry about finding a job. Just focus on going through school and we'll take care of, this, that, and the other. You won't have to worry about working. Just focus on school. And it was like all of a sudden in my mind, I was ready to get up. I said, no, I don't think I want to do that. I'm a person who's used to working for the things that I have, and I'm willing to go to school, but I also need to work because I don't plan on welfare being the end all be all for me. And so what that story reminds me of is the transition that I had from being on the ground at the bottom of the barrel, if not underneath the bottom of the barrel, trying to break into the bottom of the barrel, being on the ground and not for everybody. This is not for everybody, but being on the ground to me was, how did I end up on welfare? A person who has been taking care of himself financially for a pretty good amount of time. So I was kind of lost in that. But then to see where I am today, moving from welfare all the way to a professional analyst in the field in which I work in, or the company in which I work in, and seeing that growth takes place only because I got up. And I remember that feeling of feeling defeated. I remember that feeling of beating yourself up, saying, how could you make such a stupid decision? How could you cost yourself these opportunities? How are you now going to take care of your son who needs you financially, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally? How are you going to do those things? And you're basically a F up. How are you going to do those things? That's me beating myself up on the ground, maybe hitting myself a little bit in the head with a club. But once I was able to pull out of that behavior and get back to my feet, keeping those lessons with me of the decisions that I need to make that the next time the opportunity presents itself, keeping those lessons of the endurance that I displayed in those moments, even in my weakened state, keeping those lessons of who I was prior to the breach of who I thought my identity was, keeping all those lessons intact and moving forward in the things of life. So I just want to share this with you again. I hope you take value from this, because this is a more, I just condensed it all down, but this is a journey of over 14 years for me that have allowed me to get to where I am today. And not that I'm any place special, but to be in front of you guys week in, week out, and be able to give you guys content that is meaningful, that is heartfelt. It comes from those times that I have been knocked down to the ground and carrying those lessons back up with me and wanting to share and expand upon those lessons with you guys. So I hope you enjoy that. Again, I just want to quickly go back over it. The bullet points are: know where you're at, don't accept a defeat, or don't adopt a defeated mentality, get back to your feet and throw another punch. Other than that, it's Wednesday. I'm so happy you guys tuned in. Tabitha, I'm glad to see that you're doing better. Don't forget, next Tuesday, we will be having another First Row Intersation. This is actually going to be, there'll be two next week. I'll tell you what the first one's going to be. The first one's going to be on Tuesday at 7. The topic will be revised expectations for Black husbands. That will be with Moses Jenkins. He was also with me on the Being Transformational inaugural First Row Interstation. So I hope you guys tune into that. That'll be at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Other than that, I love you guys. Thank you for tuning in. If you like this video, share it. If you share it, like it. Please like it and share it. I'm happy to engage with you in the comments below. Hello, Tara Lynn. I see you there. But other than that, I'll see you guys again in 6 days for First Row Intersations and 7 days for the Wednesday Word. One love, peace, and God bless.